Hi, I'm Rebecca M. Zornow, a writer and book coach, and today we're talking why launch wide. That is, why take your book launch wide for indie authors. This is the third video in the series that is basically a series about what I'm doing month by month as an indie author, so other aspiring writers can see what it's like to have an indie career real time, and for me to catalog for myself so that in a couple of years I can look back and see how I've grown, what's worked, what hasn't, and just share with readers about what it's like to produce a book. So we're talking about why launch wide as an indie author. What does that mean? And then I'm also going to do a rundown of what I did this month and what's coming up next. So indie authors have control over their book production as well as their book distribution. Traditional authors who go through a large publishing company or even a small publishing company don't really have much say or control or concern over what bookstore is my book getting into, how is it going to be distributed online. But those are very real concerns for indie authors because there's nobody standing over your shoulder saying yes, this is what you should do. You have to make decisions every step of the way, and it's not going to accidentally get done by itself, unfortunately. So there's really two main camps. Going wide, which means you are launching your book wide as far as distribution goes. You want it to be available to all kinds of bookstores, libraries, bookshops, or you might ask yourself, why would you not want your book to go wide and be available on all these platforms for people? The other option is KDP Select. So if you are just launching on Amazon, there is some very compelling reasons why you might want to do that. And that's why it really comes down to the indie author as an individual and how they see their career building outwards. So let's talk about KDP Select first. One of the main reasons that indie authors might choose to just publish on the Amazon platform is that there's higher royalties, and especially as you're starting out, or if you've found over time you've built your reader base on Amazon, it might make sense to stick with Amazon. You figure, well, I'm going to get higher royalties anyways, I will just be exclusive with them, make the agreement that I'm not going to publish my book elsewhere. And you can see why this would be compelling for Amazon too. They're all about being the only option for different things. So they are creating this benefit for authors to get what they want. It's also a relatively easy process on KDP to upload and publish your book. It's a very clear and relatively clean software. I don't even know if it's called software. I don't know. The online platform. Oh gosh. And I made the decision a while ago that these videos were just going to be you just do them, Rebecca, and you don't edit them. So that's where we're at. You're just doing it. So the online system for how you upload your book on Amazon is relatively easy. I also uploaded my book to Ingramspark, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but the Amazon platform was just, get it done, very clear. You got some reminders from Amazon that, hey, your book is about to go out there to the people, make sure it's as you want it. And so I think that they have that mindset. They want to make it as easy as possible for somebody to get their book out there. But then also Amazon, they call themselves the biggest bookstore in the world. And if you are thinking about how to maybe do the smallest piece of work to get to the most readers, that might be part of the conversation that you have with yourself as an author as well. So higher royalties, it's a relatively easy process, and you get access to a huge readership. So thinking about wide, there are vastly more outlets. Even though Amazon's a big one, there are many more outlets out there than Amazon. So what I personally did for this book launch was I went wide and I chose Ingramspark as my aggregator, which means they are the company where I upload my book, and they take care of like putting it on the different platforms, and they have the information for if a bookstore is going to order my books, they do it through them. So libraries prefer Ingramspark. Indie bookstores, of course, prefer Ingramspark. You know, they're not going to go on Amazon, their biggest competitor, and who is like actively driving them out of business, and buy books from Amazon. So, you know, getting into those two things that I believe are really essential to the literary world today was really important for me. Like that is a priority that I have as an author. And so you have to answer for yourself, you know, what are your priorities? What's important to you? But it's also how I got on Target's website, Barnes & Noble's website, Kobo, and IndieBound, and quite a few other ones. And the nice thing was I didn't have to upload to each of those individually, though for some of them you do have that option if you're looking to maybe get like a slight bump up in your royalties. So it saved me a lot of time. And the print quality is really nice too. I took my book, and I think it's time to show the books. So I'm going to interrupt myself real quick. So I showed you this. This is not the book. I showed you this last video. It was like the mock-up I did. And then a lot has happened in the last month, well, month and a half really, since I uploaded a video on this topic. And this was the author proof I got from Amazon. You can see not for resale. And this is what I used when I read back through the book, looking for any typos, looking for any spacing issues. And let's do a comparison. And this is the copy from Ingramspark. So you can see, you know, the cover is the same. The backs are the same, of course, like what's inside is the same. But the Amazon copy is a little bit thicker. I decided to do the matte with Amazon just because I thought that was, I had seen Amazon's glossy covers, and I guess in this instance, I thought the matte was a little bit more elegant. Usually I do like glossy, which is why I did that with Ingramspark. But thinking of each is kind of producing a different book in terms of quality, paper thickness, you know, the material of the cover. And so if you order this on Amazon, you get a matte cover. If you order through something that works with Ingramspark, you get a glossy cover. But I brought this copy to my local indie bookstore, and she said, oh, you know, this looks really nice. Like, you know, the paper quality is good. Your cover, she gave me a huge compliment. She said, you know, your cover is a lot better than a lot of indie authors. You know, there are a lot of indie authors out there that don't get their covers designed professionally. And she just had really good things to say about her perspective as a business owner, as an indie bookstore owner, that, you know, she wants the copy from something like Ingramspark as opposed to Amazon. So there's really no right or wrong answer to this question. If we pose this question to everybody, it could be a right or wrong answer for you as a writer. And then the last thing that I was thinking about was really, you know, having all of your eggs in one basket kind of deal. I did not want Amazon to have control of my writing career, that like, oh, if I get booted off Amazon for some mistake, or you know, I have heard of indie authors, you know, there was some issue that maybe wasn't even really an issue, but Amazon thought it was an issue, or, you know, it's this huge system, mistakes are made, that you could lose access to your readership and your publishing company all in one day. And that just didn't seem like a long-term strategy for me and the kind of risks that I like to take. So I really was determined to go wide from the beginning, and that impacted quite greatly how I was making choices along the way. So if you do have any questions about going wide, definitely feel free to put them in the comments below. Nicole and I, we do check all of the comments on this channel. So let's get to what I did this month. It was a busy month. The last video was really about a lot of technical things, like getting those files just right for uploading and whatnot. And this, you know, month involved a lot of verifying of information, going online and typing in my book title and seeing like what new results were popping up, waiting to make sure the dominoes were falling as they should. So, but going through the list, I set my pre-launch for September 1st. and I launched on September 21st, 2021. So, you know, it's a 3-week pre-order period, which is relatively short, and that's something that I'd like to experiment with in the future. But in this month, I set up my Amazon author page, my Goodreads author page, so that when people are searching for Rebecca M. Zornow, there's something out there. I ordered, you know, the author proof from Amazon, made a fix, re-uploaded both documents because the manuscript is identical, uploaded it to both Ingramspark and Amazon to make those just small typo changes. And then had to like re-verify that everything was how I wanted. It was stressful, but also fun, the way that work can be sometimes. And then I've been doing a giveaway on Goodreads, which, you know, is owned by Amazon. And if you pay, I forget what it was, it's like $109 or $119, you can do a giveaway on Goodreads. And so for me, what that meant was I decided to do just a digital giveaway. And so 100 copies on October 2nd will go to the 100 lucky winners on their Kindle devices. And that's part of my review strategy so that I can get some reviews from people who, you know, don't know me, or, you know, like get some really clean reviews on my Goodreads and possibly elsewhere pages. So getting that set up and marketing that a bit, I sent out a newsletter the day my pre-order went live. I reached out to some bloggers I know to cover the book. Nicole and I printed business cards. So I think that some of you know, but maybe not everybody, but Nicole and I are both authors and book coaches. So we got like these double-sided business cards, which we're pretty happy with. What else did we do? I wrote a blog post, of course. I sent a press release, and in the last video I talked about the press release quite a bit, just the pros and cons of, you know, how many things local are really going to like pick up your genre fiction book and author story. But I'm glad I did, because it opened up 2 media opportunities. So I would definitely do it again. It's not a huge time investment, and you don't know what might come of it. And then, of course, the book went live, and that day I did like a social media blitz, and it was a really happy day. But quite a few people asked me like, oh, what does it feel like? And, you know, I think what it came down to was I thought it would feel like more of a surprise or surreal or strange, but it didn't, because I've been working towards that day for such a long time, and like, you know, uploading everything and checking everything the same way that when I got my proof, it wasn't really a shock, you know, what it looked and felt like, because I decided where these page numbers went. I had to, you know, pick out where my headers were and what size indents I wanted and stuff like that. Like I knew these books pretty well by the time they were going out there. So it was still a really happy day, but more of a like, well, of course this is going to happen. You've worked hard to get here kind of feeling. I've been planning a launch party. I live in Northeast Wisconsin, so an outdoor party where some friends and family members are going to gather and celebrate, buy a copy. I'm a little nervous about signing people's copies. Just what if I, you know, smudge it or spell somebody's name wrong? Like pretty minor things, but I guess you always find something to worry about. I brought copies to one of my local indie bookstores, and I started building the calendar for my next book, which I already have like half a rough draft of, but my goal is to publish the next, it's not a series, so this is a standalone novel, but my goal is to publish my next book in fall of 2022. So, future Rebecca, do a good job with that. So what's next? Like that's a pretty busy month, but I'm kind of switching gears here, where I was focusing so much on It's Over or It's Eaten, getting this out and live, and there's still marketing and advertising things to do, and you know, keeping this up, but I'm really switching gears here to my next book. So let's talk about what that looks like. I have a couple of marketing things left. I'm doing an interview with the wonderful FSM tomorrow morning, actually. So they have a podcast where they interview authors about their process and their work. I said authors. I meant artists. Sorry, FSM. I'm going on local radio in just a couple of days, and I'm excited about that, of course. But always nervous, always excited and always nervous, right? I wrote book launch. Oh, the launch party is happening next week as well. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I ordered some print copies off of Ingramspark so that I could hand sell them. And as a writer, you can't hand sell every copy, right? You only see so many people in your life. Like, you need either an online distribution outlet, or you need like a bookstore to be selling it. But if you do sell some of your books as a hand sell from person to person, you do have greater royalties off of that copy. So that was something that I wanted to take advantage of, to be able to connect face to face with some people in my life that I knew were going to buy the book. And so I'll have those books at my book launch. Nothing like 1,000 books or anything like this. Is, the new indie author career is nothing like publishing on your own a decade and a half ago, where you would have your garage full of books. Like, it's a print on demand kind of world these days, which I think is wonderful. I do have to apply for tax exemption on Ingram, so that when I buy these books, I don't have to pay them sales tax, because I will be charging sales tax for the copies. I sell, and it was a little bit tricky because I had been looking for that feature on Ingramspark and hadn't seen it. And I didn't see it until it was time to order them. And from what I read online, it can take about a week to get that approved through Ingramspark. And there's all of these shipping delays and paper shortages and stuff going on. And so I actually was pretty worried that I wasn't going to have books at my book launch. Until now, I kind of forgot that had happened. Yeah, there was about 3 days there where I thought, what if the books don't come until December and I have to cancel my launch party? There's a lot of books right now that even traditionally published books are getting moved back, 3 weeks or so. Which is pretty surprising. The book industry doesn't like to pivot in that way. So it's really a lot of concerns with shipping and distribution right now. So I thought, I'm not going to wait a week to try and get tax exemption on Ingramspark, because that could be like a do or die situation for my launch party. And so I thought, well, I'll just pay, the small dozens of dollars it is this time for the sales tax. And I have to fix that now so that when I do future orders, I don't have to deal with that. And I wanted to have enough time for it to clear, where I don't have an order, planned tomorrow again or anything. But that's a really good example of how, as an indie author, you need to be on the lookout for everything. And a lot of these things are things that you're not even going to know until it's time and you go up against it and you're like, oh, okay, let's take care of that. And for next time, I'll remember to do this earlier. I'm going to try out an ad on Facebook for the book. I have to register the copyright for the book. I have some blog posts, newsletters, those kinds of things scheduled coming up. But really, it's focusing on foundation for a 2022 book. Things like character descriptions and outlining. So I'll be talking about the process for that book in future months and future videos. And I'm excited for that, because then hopefully somebody, going back to these videos in a year can see oh, okay, I'm interested in writing a book. What does that kind of look like on a timeline? And one thing I really had trouble finding once I decided I wanted to publish this year as an indie author, I had trouble finding, well, how do you balance the writing and the production of the book? And at what point do you absolutely need to have your book designer booked, and how do you balance that with like, well, what if you don't have the final page count of your book because you're still making like some light copy editing changes, or deciding what the front and back matter of the book is going to look like, and whatnot. And so hopefully you will have that with this video series. And then I'm also thinking I'm going to do a Q1 financial update on the book. I'm always really interested to talk finances and look at people's, financial videos on YouTube, of course. I think it's something we don't talk enough about. And it can only benefit us. It can only benefit authors and writers. It can only benefit creatives. It can only benefit, people in like a more traditional work environment. If we don't talk about finances, that gives, a very small group of people the power, when really we all should be completely and comprehensively financially literate. So if you do have questions about the finances of an indie author, throw those down below as well, so I can try and answer some of them in that video. And that is the end of the note cards. So thanks for joining me, and I am feeling really good about getting this book out there, and I feel like if I just keep producing, my personal goal is to produce a book a year. I'm just going to be getting better and better and better as a writer, and learning more and more and more about what I can do to make the book a success, get it in front of people. And that kind of clarity happens so rarely in life, unfortunately, but I feel really grateful that I have it right now, that I know what I'm doing and what I want to be doing with my creative writing career. And so I'm glad that you're here to have the journey with me. Bye.